I'm just waiting for that sign that says it's record. Okay, recording has started. So good morning, everyone. I am Kimberly York. I am the Black Education Act Liaison, and I want to welcome you here to our Black Education Act Advisory Council. And I am going to turn it over to our chair, Johnna Rocker Clinton.
Okay, good morning, everybody. I hope all is well. Thanks for joining this Saturday morning. You could have been anywhere else, but you are here. That's awesome. So I like to start by just introductions. So we'll go around. If you could say your name, what you do in your profession, and how you serve the Black Education Act, whether that be in a paid capacity or as an advisor or in the advisory council. Okay, so I will start. My name is Johnna Rocker Clinton, and I actually work at Alamogordo High School, and I am an assistant principal there. And I am also the Black Education Act Advisory Council Chair. And so I'll hand it off to Dr. Mack second, and then whoever Dr. Mack wants to hand it off to, we can go at it like that.
Wonderful. Good morning, everyone. I am Dr. Stephanie Mack, and I am one of the advisory council members serving as vice chair. And good morning to everyone and welcome. I am owner and operator of A+ Class Act Consulting here in the Albuquerque area, serving New Mexico and Texas, hoping to expand nationwide. And additionally, I serve as one of the education directors at the Pueblo of Jemez. Welcome, everyone, and good morning. I'll pass it over to Nancy.
Buenos dias, familia. My name is Nancy Lopez. I'm professor of sociology at the University of New Mexico, 21 years here. And I'm also co-founder and director of the Institute for the Study of Race and Social Justice. I serve on this committee, and I also co-chair with Dr. Patricia Trujillo, the Data and Policy Committee, and most of my work uses intersectionality to solve problems, not only in education, but beyond. So the idea that if we are interested in equity and distributing resources, we do have to look at race, gender, and class together, at least, among other areas of axes of inequality. And if time permits, I'll talk a little bit about how we can continue this work by adding parent educational attainment to all of our application forms, from preschool to grad school. So that's a little bit about me. More information and a lot of videos at race.unm.edu for anyone who's interested. And I see my co-chair is here, so I'm gonna call on her, Dr. Patricia Trujillo. We're just introducing ourselves.
Thank you, Dr. Lopez. Hi, my name is Patricia Trujillo, and I'm the Deputy Cabinet Secretary of Higher Ed. I am on the data subcommittee with Dr. Lopez, and I feel like I'm re-entering. I have not been present for the last couple of meetings, and I apologize for that, but I have been traveling a lot this quarter and hope that that's going to come to a pause here, and so I can be more present in my office. It's good to see everybody. Good morning, and I look forward to the meeting.
Can you pass it on to someone else, Dr. Trujillo?
Yes, I feel like I'm guessing about who hasn't gone yet because I just hopped in. But Johnna Rocker Clinton, have you gone yet? Or Johnna?
Yes, I have. I was first.
Oh. How about
you want me to do it for you?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I'll hand it over to Dr. Wise.
Thank you. I appreciate and am honored to be in this space this morning. I am Cynthia Wise. I am a postdoctoral fellow, founding postdoctoral fellow in the Borderlands and Ethnic Studies Department here at NMSU. If you ever want to check in on what we're doing, we are on Instagram and online, best.nmsu.edu. We're doing a lot of work when it comes to the creation of the department. We have started a new, HSI, the first time we've ever had a Chicano Studies department. Will begin in the fall. We're incorporating Native Studies, Chicano Studies, Africana Studies under an umbrella of Ethnic Studies, beginning in fall of 23. And I'll pass it on to Vicki.
Hello, I'm Vicki Horn. I work at Explore Academy in Las Cruces. I serve here as a member of the subcommittee. Joseph will have to tell me the name of it, but I know that we are looking for culturally relevant and inclusive resources for our students here in New Mexico on that committee. And I guess I can pass it on to Sandra.
Good morning. I'm Sandra Aaron. I'm very happy to be here this morning, even though I could have been somewhere else. I'm very, very happy to be here with all of you. I serve on the committee. I come on the committee in the role of a community member. I am a retired educator, special ed teacher, special ed director, college counselor, transition specialist. And now I'm an independent contractor with CORE, working as an instructional coach with the K through 3rd grade elementary school, Blanco, up in Bloomfield, that I visited this week for 2 days. And I serve on the Data and Policy Committee and the Hotline Committee. And I just want to confirm that I don't have to take minutes because Dr. Mack texted me and asked if I would do that. So I got all prepared. So if I'm relieved of that duty, I'll put the notebook away. And I'll call
muted, Kim.
Yeah, so Sandra, what I will say is you can take minutes, just, but for the official public requirement, this recording will serve as that, but please feel free to take minutes. It can't hurt. Yeah, okay. But we will post this recording on the website to fulfill the public notice requirement.
Okay, then I'll continue on, and then I will pass it off to Kenneth Stowe.
Thank you so much. Good morning. Thank you for allowing me to be here. My name's Ken Stowe. I'm the Director of Curriculum and Instruction at New Mexico Public Ed Department. I also currently serve on the Board of Directors for New Mexico CASA. Having been a foster youth, I'm a strong advocate for our children that are in state custody. I'm here to serve the Black Education Act and the Identity and Equity team through just direct supports, collaboration, anything to serve our students through culturally relevant curriculum and professional development for our teachers on understanding, like, how do we take that curriculum and actually make it happen and make it relevant for our students in the classroom. So again, thank you for allowing me to be here. Am I the last? Wait, have we heard from Joseph yet? I think I'm going to go to Joseph next. Okay, go ahead.
Hello, I'm Joseph Ulibarri. I am the chair of the Curriculum and Professional Development Committee, and I also serve as one of the charter school representatives for the Advisory Council.
Thank you, everybody. I think that is all, except Dr. Bannerman had come in. Did she sneak out? I thought I saw Dr. Bannerman. Did I not? Or did I just see the name Vicki and assume it was Dr. Bannerman?
Oh yeah, that's Vicki Horn. That's Vicki Horn.
Okay, yeah, that might have been. Okay, that might have been what happened. So do you want me to review the agenda, Kim, or do you want to do that?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so after we've already done our roll call, we're gonna have Kim go over the staff updates at PED. We'll discuss the AP African American Studies course. Then we'll kind of debrief about the council retreat and council recruitment. And then we have some topics that we will go over. Curriculum and professional development, data and policy, family and community engagement, hotline, public relations, all of these committees, if the representatives are here, you could report out, and we'll get the dates for the next meeting. I would like to see us like have a consistent, every whatever Saturday. I would like to see us do that. That way everybody is prepared, and we know it's on our calendar and all of that. So we can discuss that when we get to that time, but maybe you can kind of be thinking about that. And then we'll have our closing remarks at about 11:45, unless it takes us shorter than that, and then we'll adjourn our meeting. So I'll hand it over to Kim so that she can talk about the PED staff updates.
Thank you so much. And Ken, I want to thank you again for being here. You all don't know, but behind the scenes, Ken is a force to be reckoned with in terms of his support of the Black Education Act. He has been one of our #1 champions and always just really committed to equity in any kind of way. And so Ken, hopefully maybe you can even join us as a member, because you have a lens of the foster care system. And so that definitely would be a unique perspective for us. But I would like to give you all some great news. One is that we will soon be fully staffed. We have officially hired our new professional learning coordinator and our business operations specialist, and they will both be starting on the Monday after Thanksgiving. So that's the 28th, I believe, is when they'll start orientation. We also have a very promising candidate for our family and community engagement specialist. We're just waiting for approval from SPO. He is already a current state employee, and so he currently works for DVR and brings 24 years of experience, and I think that he would be a valuable asset to our team. I do have one bit of bittersweet news, is that Charles has departed PED, and so he is no longer with us, and so we will be reposting our curriculum coordinator position. And so if you have any candidates that you would like to bring forward, please let me know. We would really, really like somebody that has K-12 experience, but also if they have some higher ed, but K-12 experience is definitely a plus, as that is one of the main focuses of what we do. I also wanted to share with you that Johnna and I have been really, really having conversations about how we can improve the quality of the structure and the support for the council. And so we will be meeting with some other acts that have been in existence for a while, and adopting some of the things that they are doing, but also getting feedback from you all, because you all are here. You have been committed. I appreciate you all so much. And I know I sound like a broken record, but that will never stop, because I truly cannot do this work without you all. I appreciate you. Also, I wanted to let you know that we are getting back out into the community. Yesterday, Dr. Banman, myself, the Hispanic Education Act Liaison, Julia Rosa, and Simone Van, our division director for identity, equity, and transformation, traveled to Los Alamos. We spent the day up there at the request of their superintendent, helping them to identify some strategies to deal with some recent public racially charged incidences. And so one of my main takeaways from that, we got to spend some quality time with students. And so one of my main takeaways from that is, in addition to doing the town halls with adults, I really want to focus on spending time with students and hearing the students, because they have a very different perspective from the adults. And I think that both perspectives are very important, but because we are charged with making sure that we are addressing racially charged incidences, students are the ones who often are living those things. And so we definitely want to hear how we can be of support to students, because I don't know if I shared this with you all before, but not only do we serve the adults, but I go into schools and I'm, am willing to do student workshops as well. So if that's ever a need that you all have, please let me know, both at K-12 as well as the higher ed level. I have the experience for both. And so one of the things that we have been looking at with regards to racially charged incidents is looking at how we can improve the hotline. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. Johnna can provide you all some information about some strategies that they are doing. But I also want to share the exciting news that we are looking to be more collaborative with the other acts. And so Johnna and I last Saturday attended the Hispanic Education Act Council's mini summit, and it was absolutely amazing. And so we found that there is definitely some opportunities for intersectionality, which is what Dr. Lopez talks about all the time. One of the specific areas that we talked about was the intersectionality of for instance, Afro-Latina students around learning styles, right? Because we know that students of color oftentimes learn differently. And so thinking about a white paper collaboration, but also how we can have a more unified front with all of the acts and making sure that we are using the lens of students that have intersecting identities to inform the work that we are doing. And then the other thing that I want to bring to your attention is making sure that as we are speaking to people about the Black Education Act, my number one priority is to make sure that people understand that we proudly serve and support all students. Our charge is, specific to improving educational outcomes for Black students, but we proudly serve all students. And so I don't want that to get lost in the narrative of what we do and what our mission is. And so with that, I think that that's it for that update in terms of staffing. So I think we're on to the AP. Okay, so, and I'm actually going to ask, I'm going to ask Johnna, I'm going to ask Johnna as well as Dr. Chahil to chime in on this as they both have some knowledge. But another very intentional collaboration that we are working on is the curriculum side of making sure that things are culturally relevant for students and that they see themselves represented in the classroom. And so we are collaborating with our own with the College Board and our College and Readiness Bureau at PED to do a pilot, to participate in a pilot for the African American Studies course. And so it is an advanced placement course, but it is open to all students. And one of the conversations that we were very conscious about having is making sure that students understand that they do not have to have a certain GPA, that it is open to all students. And another one of the items that was discussed is that the College Board creates the framework, but just as with all curriculum, the school districts decide on their own curriculum. And so we will also be leaning on you all as the council and our experts in so many ways to provide us with recommendations about, some of the curriculum that could be used in this area. And we are going to be inviting Melissa to actually, maybe do a presentation because I just kind of jumped in with this. It was something that our curriculum coordinator was overseeing. But I'm going to ask Johnna if she could chime in as she and her school will actually be participating.
Okay, good morning again, everybody. So first of all, let me know if you want to see the framework. And I will send that so you can look at what's the frame, what's the outline of the AP African American Studies course. So for me, yes, okay, I will send that out then. For me, I always have concerns about AP. I have taught AP. I've always had concerns just because sometimes it's not accessible. Sometimes students see the name AP and they think a certain type of person. can take that course. So even if it's not said, because College Board has always been adamant that any student can take AP and pre-AP courses, always have. However, sometimes there's just a stigma that goes along with AP. I talked about this class with our department head for social studies. There's a teacher who is very excited about teaching it. And so, I went ahead and filled out the form to see, to start communicating with College Board. And then we'll see, what college credit are they providing for that? Because we don't know that yet because it's so new and it's a pilot. Because the students need to, or they'll be able to take the AP test. If you know anything about AP, you do take the AP test and you get college credit for taking that test. So let's say if a student took a US history AP course, I want to say US history has about 5 or 6 credits attached to it. So if the student gets a 4 or a 5, they will be able to get 5 or 6 college credits. A 3 is accepted at some colleges, but not all colleges. 3 is passing, but it just depends on the college. So one of the main questions is, what college credit would a student get for that? Would it be like some type of humanities or history? I'm going to ask, if you are not muted, can you please mute? I'm getting a little bit of feedback. And then also accessibility when it comes to paying for the class or paying for the test is another thing, because for AP courses, there is, I want to say it's about $97 for the test, unless you're on free and reduced lunch, and I want to say it's about $15. So I know one of the things that the Black Education Act is kind of striving for is scholarships for students, and I don't know how we're going about that. So maybe that's something we can talk about at some other point. But that is the update for me. I have not talked to College Board yet. We have only applied to be a part of the pilot. And with that outline, I'm guessing the thought is, hey, we can provide supplements for teachers. So that's something maybe we can work with Joseph. Our subcommittee can work on what are some curriculums, what are some materials and resources that we can help with, when we look at that outline. Yes, Dr. Lopez.
Thank you so much for your work on all of this. It's very exciting. And I'm also wondering if there's a way to create a course on African American history or Black history that is accessible to 9th graders. So AP is generally targeting people who are at least, in junior year pretty much. So all the evidence is clear. These courses not only engage, they create critical thinking, they create community, they are community centric, and waiting until an AP is available in your upper grades is great, but I also want to make sure that we're focusing our energies on the vast majority of kids who might be looking for this type of course in 9th grade.
If I can I see your hand? I'm sorry.
Can I just say something real quick? I agree, Dr. Lopez. That is where I was thinking of you in that ethnic studies course, because I thought, what is going to be the prerequisite for this class? Because they're going to need, I'm thinking maybe you have already had US history by the time you take this. I'm not sure what the prerequisite would be. But then, students in New Mexico do not take US history until 11th grade, right? Or maybe they say you need to have at least, New Mexico and world. Then again, that's 11th grade that they would be able to take it. So yes, I do agree. And that's something that maybe we can talk about in the curriculum and instruction subcommittee. What are some classes that we can, present to different school districts, or what is something that one school is already doing that we can support? Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to interject to say, thank you all for this conversation, because Dr. Bannerman we did the College and Readiness Bureau did a presentation on this AP course to Dr. Bannerman, our Deputy Secretary, and she also had the forethought that she would like to see a general African American course. And so everybody, all this discussion is very much so in line with where Dr. Bannerman is seeing this moving forward, to make sure that it's just a general course. And so that definitely is the conversation that's in the pipeline. And now I'm going to turn it over to Ken, because I'm sure that he has some input on that as well.
No, this is excuse me, I'm a little horsey this morning. This is real exciting work. I want to highlight, yes, there is stigma around AP courses, and I think it's really just going to take the professional development and the guidance that we provide our high school counselors, and not creating that sort of blockade for any student that wants to get into this AP course, because we know traditionally the students that take AP courses are those that are really excelling in their general coursework. I do also know that there's funding provided by the legislature for AP exams. So we definitely want to explore that, because we do not want funding to be a blockage for students to take part in this. I know that College Board is a big lobby at our legislature, so we want to leverage that and make sure that we have funding for those exams. And then the final thought that I have was kind of around Dr. Lopez's thoughts, and I'm sorry, my my squares, I was kind of losing track on who was speaking, but there's also a pre-AP pipeline, and then just general coursework that we can explore. This isn't my expertise, but I do know that some districts do offer pre-AP coursework at the middle school level. So we may want to explore how we can work this into that curriculum as well. Thank you.
Kenneth, thank you for touching on that professional development. One of the things that we were insistent on is that Black Education Act would have a direct hand in providing professional development for the teachers and everyone that will be involved with this, because we want to make sure that they have the support that they need, but also have the adequate lens and approach, because we know that things can go south really quickly if the approach to this. And Dr. Lopez, I'm definitely going to be leaning and asking for your expertise in this area as well. And I think Dr. Trujillo was next.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to let everybody know that HED has been in conversation with College Board. We attended the launch of the Black Education Act test or conversation in March of this year. And actually, I believe the week after Thanksgiving, our policy director is going to be going to a follow-up meeting about that. And that's because on our side, we have to make sure that this articulates to those college credits, specifically regarding like where it would be placed in the Gen Ed core. And because now we have this articulation agreement across all of the institutions. And so there's this other opportunity for like a rising tide. What is it? A rising tide raises all ships. Is that also not every higher ed institution? Actually, I believe only 3 at this point in New Mexico have the introduction to African American studies in their Gen Ed. So the other thing that we've been working on is that it will be accepted at all institutions. We're deciding what area it would be in, area 4, area 5. And I'm not going to remember exactly, but that's either like humanities or social sciences, but we're thinking about where, or if it could be one or the other, but that all institutions will have to accept those 3 credit hours as students are taking the test and going into New Mexico public institutions. But the other piece is that we think it's a really good opportunity to leverage a conversation across the campuses about, hey, like let's, as the high schools are doing this and preparing for this, can we also ask our institutions to do this so that they can offer African American studies courses across the state? So I just wanted to give you that update. And I also have, is this the course framework that you have, Johnna? It's like is it like a chunky, this is about a 50-page?
No, mine is even smaller than that. It's just an outline. So you probably have a little bit more information since it's been, I've just kind of tapped in.
So what
yeah.
I can do is I can I can even pop out. I have my earbuds in, so I'll still be listening. So I can go. I'm in my office. I can go get it scanned, and then maybe I can just send everybody a link so you all can see what it entails. It's really impressive, the curriculum. And so the other piece I think is exciting is that for the teachers who are going to be the ones teaching the AP class, they're going to have a really exciting professional development opportunity. And for me, when I saw the syllabus or the curriculum, I was like, oh my God, like I've taken African American studies in grad school, and I feel like I want to take this course because there's just the way that they framed it, there's so much more to learn.
Yeah, one thing I will say about College Board, any course I have taught with AP, I have loved the curriculum. My only issue has been accessibility and stigma with College Board. So.
And if I may, one of the other points I wanted to make that they were trying to make at this meeting that we went to in March is that this test, the AP and African American Studies, along with they're also going to be launching an AP and Pre-Calculus, are going to be marketed by the College Board as, how do I say, like they're like an equity initiative to exactly address the kind of stigma that you're talking about, and to say that AP courses need to be accessible to all students. And so there are these, like there's this, how do I say, there's the marketing for the course itself, but then there's going to be this bigger kind of marketing about how AP courses need to be more accessible.
Awesome. Did anyone have anything else to add about the AP African American Studies course? Joseph, did you want to speak to anything, or kind of, I know your wheels might be turning right now.
Dr. Lopez's hand has been up as well.
Oh, okay. I thought Dr. Lopez already spoken. She didn't take her hand down. Do you have something else to add, Dr. Lopez? Okay. Yeah, she just didn't take her hand down from the first time. But Joseph, did you have anything, or are you just kind of your wheels are turning? Yeah. Okay. All righty. So Kim, did we want to go ahead and move forward in the agenda, or did you have anything else to say about the AP course?
No, just as we get more information, I will invite you all to those meetings just to keep you informed. And as I get more information, I'll be sure to pass it along to you all. But like I said, in the near future, you know, we're going to definitely be leaning on your expertise as this process goes forward. And Johnna, I'm okay to keep going if you want.
Okay. So, does anybody need a break or anything? I don't want to move forward if you, I know we've been sitting here about, my clock says 40 minutes. Everybody okay? Need a minute or want to move forward? Okay. I see some thumbs up. All right. My teacher's coming out. All right. So, a next agenda item is to debrief about the council retreat. I'll go ahead and hand it over to Kim so you can talk about what we went over at the retreat and maybe some items that you want to discuss pertaining to that.
Yeah, sure. So we had a great turnout for our first annual advisory council retreat. And one of the number one reasons that I wanted to do it was one, to, you know, express my gratitude to you all. You've been very patient as we are new, you know, as an act, but you all have been consistently committed and consistently present in this building process. And so one of the things that was very important was talking about, you know, how we can structure things, and that conversation will continue, but also to kind of begin talking about goals that are aligned for the committees with the PED strategic plan, which everyone received a copy of. And if you don't have a copy of it, I can definitely make sure you get that. But also making sure that we are aligned with the Martinez-Yazzie outcome findings. And so one of the major things is, a topic of conversation oftentimes is that Black students aren't specifically named in the Martinez-Yazzie, but I want us to all remember that the representation, although it's not in name, the 4 categories of students that were identified include students with disabilities. And we know that Black students have a high representation in the special education population and receiving services. We also know that a lot of Black students are identified as economically disadvantaged. There are a number of students that have intersecting identities as Native, as well as African American or Black students. And then the other area is English learners. And so although, we don't really specifically, Black students aren't specifically named, I want you all to be informed that that is how we should always discuss the representation and our efforts in that. The other thing that we talked about was, just some core areas that we can really begin to focus our efforts in, and recruitment was one of those. And so we'll talk about that in one moment. But we also had the privilege of having the co-sponsor of the Black Education Act, which is formerly known as House Bill 43. Senator Harold Pope joined us to once again show his unwavering support. But also because we hadn't had a chance to debrief him on the progress of the Black Education Act and what we are doing. And so he came to join us to listen about the progress, but also to hear additional ways that he can champion for us. And so he has pledged his ongoing commitment, to supporting this and making sure that we can expand. One of his main takeaways from us, and we've kind of had this conversation earlier, was making sure that we are reaching across the aisle to other acts and other ethnic groups to make sure that we are having a collaborative intention in our work. And so we have been doing that and will continue to do that. One of the things that I do want to say, and I have been making sure that I have been emphasizing this, and I think that it's important and relevant to this conversation, is around critical race theory. While it is definitely valuable, I never want it to be said that we don't value the work of critical race theory. It is not the scope of work for the Black Education Act. I think that is important to note. And again, also that we, proudly serve and support all students. So one of the number 1 charges that the council worked on during that working retreat was kind of identifying some recommendations for one, the actual language of the statute, but also kind of some areas going forward that we can target our efforts. And so a lot of that, again, was around recruitment, making sure that, we're thinking about the language. We had an extensive conversation around the term white paper. And so making some recommendations around there. Thank you, Dr. Lopez. And so Dr. Bannerman and I did have another conversation about that. And so we want to make sure that your recommendations are put forward. And that happens through sometimes our policy team in bringing those recommendations forward, because it may not necessarily need to escalate to the legislative area, but our internal policy team may be able to make some of those recommended changes for us. Another area was just thinking about resources and thinking also about, let me look back at your notes that you sent me. Wait 1 second, I'm sorry. Oh yeah, expanding the racism and cultural development sensitivity training, which we will definitely be doing once our professional learning coordinator comes on board. We are vetting additional vendors that want to provide trainings. And so we want to make sure that everybody is meeting the same standards when it comes to the expectations for those trainings. And one of the number one expectations is that it is at least 90 minutes. I have been working very, very closely with school districts and schools to make sure that they have access to the technical support that they need in terms of fulfilling the November 30th deadline for our professional learning report that they need to submit to us. And so that will be ongoing. The other area that we kind of focus on here was another recommendation was expanding the anti-racism, anti-oppression hotline, and Johnna will be able to talk about that in a little bit. But then also the retreats and conferences. One of the things that I was really encouraged by was the Hispanic Education Act Council's summit. And I think that that is definitely something that we can definitely do as well. But again, knowing that we will also be looking at some collaboration around that. We also, thinking about professional development, we have tentative dates for our 2023 Black Education Act Conference, and those dates are March 29th, 30th and 31st. And so you can mark your calendar, and there will definitely be more information coming, but I please request that if you have an area of expertise that you would like to present at the conference, we would love to have you. But also, I would love to have your ideas about a keynote speaker as well. And then the last area was of your recommendations at the retreat that you all focused on was around the curriculum and culturally relevant resources and materials. And so what I want to emphasize again, and Joseph, I need to publicly say this and apologize to you. I told Johnna I had not realized, because Simone was working with your committee, that Dr. Bannerman had approved you all to recruit subcommittee members that will not be a part of the big council. And so, Joseph, I wasn't aware of that. And so please continue to do that. And thanks for bringing that to my awareness. We do have, in terms of the culturally relevant resources, that committee has been, that subcommittee has been, bar none, the best curriculum and committee that I've ever worked with, and they work very hard. They really over the summer was meeting every week to vet some resources that were given. And so thank you all so much for that. And if there's a way that I can better support that work and those recommendations, and I'm gonna say that, Ken definitely can be a very strong advocate in helping us understand processes around recommendations. And in fact, I wanted to bring up a resource that Hakeem, are you able to talk? Because he just recently sent me an email, and Ken, maybe you can help us in this area about a resource that that committee would like to put forward.
Yes, I am able to talk. Good afternoon, all. Sorry to join late. Yeah, so some of you, I know Dr. Lopez was there. We were at the event where Dr. Ibrahim X. Kendi spoke, and I was Brandy Stone had me on duty. Director Stone had me on duty just to kind of help him get from his ride to the speaker's dais. And in having that time with him, I mentioned to him that we had vetted his book, that the curriculum committee had vetted his book. And he was like, "Oh, really?" And he was genuinely interested in what our plan was for it. And then, he spoke and he flew away. And so I was just like, I know that Brandy has his contact for his people. And I was like, maybe it might be useful to put a letter together just from our body after getting all the requisite permissions from PED to say, hey, we vetted your book. We recommended it. Thank you, Kimberly, for kind of letting me know that we're offering it as a recommended resource to educators. But I think that he would be interested in that. And my big idea was and then perhaps even be willing to, record a short video for us that we can then share with educators who choose to use the resource. So that's that's the idea that's floating out there.
Thank you so much for that, Hakeem. And I had shared with him that, you know, I need to understand the process for myself. And so, Ken, if you have any insight about how we can formally make recommendations about resources, that would be great. And then I see that Dr. Lopez's hand is up as well.
Yes, and I just wanted to mention that for any of you that might be interested in receiving copies of those books, Armando Bustamante, who's working in APS, does have copies, and each of us received a copy at that beautiful dinner. And I also wanted to encourage you to reach out to Chicago Public Schools. Dr. Kathy Powers does works on reparations, and she alerted me that there are required African-American courses for graduation in Chicago as part of their curricular reparations for injustices that have been visited on the community through law enforcement. So they have already developed a curriculum that might be important for us to consider. And of course, ethnic studies is about contextualizing this national history and the local history, but it would be really powerful if we let them know about the conference we're having, find out if they're having you know, similar events that we could participate in virtually or maybe even potentially in person. I mean, I think that there is definitely communities of practice around the country that we can all be in conversation with.
Yes, thank you. That is very good news to know. Dr. Lopez, I will definitely be following up with you on that. And also, I think to piggyback off of what you shared, Dr. Lopez, is that I don't know if all of you know, but New Mexico is only the second state to have an actual Black Education Act. The first is Oregon, and we will be reaching out with them to do some thought partnership. And so I'm proud to say that we have had a number of states, Georgia, and I know that I think it was Delaware. Different states are reaching out to us to ask us for our level of expertise and how to do this. And so, you know, we are pioneering and championing this work across the nation. And so I'm looking forward to being able to cross-connect with other states like Chicago to tap into some of those resources, because I believe sometimes we don't have to reinvent the wheel on some things. You know, we can, you know, learn about what other people doing and adapt it to the unique culture of New Mexico. So Dr. Lopez, thank you so much for sharing that. Johnna, I see your hand.
Kenneth can go ahead and speak just so we don't get off task, but Dr. Lopez mentioned something that I kind of wanted to speak to just for all of you to be thinking about. So I'll let Kenneth go ahead and speak to what he needed to speak to regarding you, Kim.
Yeah, so really I am definitely interested working with the team on exploring how we can get this on the instructional material review radar. There's a couple different timelines, whether it's going to be a core resource, a core instructional material, and then supplemental materials kind of have a different review process. But let's, you know, I'm not familiar with the materials that are being discussed here. I just need to get those in my hand. Kimberly, we just need to interact a little bit more on the back end internally at PED, and we can get the ball rolling on getting that in the instructional material bureau's hands and getting that process going.
Sure, and we can actually invite you to the curriculum, the professional development curriculum subcommittee meeting. But the books that we are referencing is that subcommittee actually read. It's the books that Merritt and her team, Savetta and their team, it's the Stamped and the Indigenous Peoples book. So it's those two resources that PED shared. And if anyone needs copies of those, we still have multiple sets available if you want to distribute them. I think that we were able to make copies available to everyone who participated in the recent UNM conference, where Dr. Kendi was the keynote speaker. And so, Kenneth, yes, we definitely will lean on you to help us, because I know that there's an actual rubric also for supplemental resources. So if you can help us to be informed about that process.
No, that helps. I'm very familiar with that book. I got a few of those boxes sitting right behind me. So yeah, definitely.
Okay, thank you so much. Johnna, I'm turning it back over to you.
Okay, Kenneth, do you have, like, can you share that rubric with us that you have or is that something that only PED?
No, I'm sorry to interrupt. No, that it's definitely, it's a public resource. I can drop a link to the Instructional Material Bureau site into the chat. Just let me dig that out here in a second.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And Dr. Lopez, you spoke about looking into Chicago public schools, and you said that the person was Kathy.
Yes, she's a professor of political science here at the University of New Mexico, and she has been pioneering a lot of this work by working in collaboration with Georgetown University and offering a course called Race, Rights, and Reparations. And she's been doing incredible work. I believe she's now Associate Director of Africana Studies at UNM, if I'm not mistaken. Or I would urge you to connect with her. She was the one who told me about the work that's being done in Chicago public schools around curricular reparations. So she may have a contact, but you could probably just contact the school district and find out where they are with their curriculum.
Okay, what is her last name? All I got was Kathy.
Powers. Kathy, Kathy, Powers.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. In
And
political science.
Okay. And you had mentioned, you know, and I think Kim spoke to this too, and this is a concern at our school that, you know, we can use curriculum that other people have, but, you know, kind of tailor it to local. One of the concerns, we are actually in the process of adopting social studies curriculum, materials, textbooks, and New Mexico history is the hardest one to adopt materials for. And that would be us, you know, that would be this state. That would be, we would have to develop that. We can't go to Texas and adopt a textbook about New Mexico from Texas that, you know, is culturally relevant anyway, right? So that's just a bug I wanted to put in y'all's ear.
Yeah.
I've heard people say, you know, there's people writing, you know, this or that. I'm not connected to that, but I know that is a struggle in our schools, just so, you know, we're all aware. And I don't know, Kenneth, if that's something that you and the curriculum department at PED are aware of, thinking about or whatever, but I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah. So if I could speak to that, Johnna. So one of the things, before Simone transitioned to her new role, in her role as curriculum coordinator, that was one of her #1 priorities, was to hire someone specifically to create a textbook that is about Black contributions in New Mexico and around the world. But so that is still on the table for Black Education Act. That is still a #1 priority for us. And as soon as we can get our new curriculum coordinator, that will be moving forward. And so if you have recommendations, I think that we had identified someone before that was working on it, but the timing was a little off. But if you have recommendations about someone, about a New Mexican that can help to develop that book, please bring that person to our attention so we can get them vetted, because that is definitely, Simone did identify that as a gap. And so we still have our eyes on the mark in terms of delivering on that necessary resource. So thanks for the reminder. And if I could just backtrack just one quick moment. I thought I saw Arlen. Is Arlen still here? Oh, he is. So Arlen, and I don't know if you know this, this is going back to the AP course. So APS was one of the other schools that signed up to participate in the pilot. Arlen, do you have any information about that you might want to speak to? If not, it's totally okay. I know I'm putting you on the spot.
Oh, no, ain't no problem. No, sadly, I do not know what what they have done in that case. Nobody has brought it up to me yet, but I did put in some information, at least to what you just said, to people who are working on Black history in New Mexico. at least people who I've been in contact with. And I know before we had Timothy Nelson that was connected to our council, but I do know he still has kind of some historical references like books and stuff to be able to highlight the Black experience in New Mexico, as well as Kyron Roel. I don't know if anybody has met him, but he's Albuquerque local. He actually works at the university, or did work at the University of New Mexico in the law school area, but now he's working at CNM. But he's a historian. He has a lot of history of like the Black experience in Albuquerque specifically, and the surrounding New Mexico. And most of them go to like Blackdom and Vado, kind of highlighting those histories. So that's kind of something I do know. And then, I mean, I think UNM could be a good resource just in the Africana Studies department, because I know Natasha Howard and Dr. Cheryl Means. I don't know if Cheryl Means is still there, but they were two people who focused on Blacks in Latin America, and that was a lot of our history here in New Mexico too.
Okay, thank you. And so if you would like to be a part of that committee that is helping us to develop that book resource, please let me know. And Arlen, just an update that Dr. Means has moved out of state, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah, so she's no longer with us. But thank you so much for the recommendations. And so Arlen, I'm not sure who the person is, but it was Melissa in the College and Readiness Bureau who let me know that APS has signed on for the pilot. And Arlen, later, can you also talk about your the work that you're going to be doing at APS so that we can be supportive when we get ready to do the updates? Dr. Trujillo.
Yeah, just as I'm listening, this is more from like my scholarly background in literature and community narrative, but this might also be a really beautiful opportunity in regards to creating the text of doing how do I say, like a community narrative project where like the Black Education Act could call on people from around New Mexico, right? African Americans, Black folks from across the state to share their family stories. And then you publish that as your book, right? Like there could be a great opportunity to collect stories. I know that Blackdom is so important, but I think that there might be other pockets, right, throughout the state that are not being as thoroughly researched right now that could come up in those kinds of narratives. But also like in regards to living in certain cities, there might be angles that people just don't know. And so it would be a great opportunity to do like an oral history project or to do some kind of even like listening tour where, you know, we could sit down with folks and do something like if you've ever seen StoryCorps, right? And then do transcriptions of interviews. I think that could be also a really great potential for the Black Education Act to like say, ta-da, like here we are, right? To introduce ourselves to communities who may not know the work just yet.
Yes, absolutely. And so I want to share that I started some of that when I was the director at Black programs at New Mexico State University. So many of you, I don't know if you know, but we have Mr. Clayton Flowers, who's one of the oldest living Tuskegee Airmen. We also have Ms. Bobby Boyer, who is the oldest living citizen of Vado. So we do have, I created a podcast. And so I'm sure that NMSU would not mind us using some of that narrative, but I had the thought in mind, just what you just said. We also, Las Cruces is home to Miss Doris Hamilton, who was the first female Black principal in New Mexico. So we definitely have some rich history, like you said, Dr. Trujillo, and I would love to, not reinvent the wheel. I think that would be a perfect opportunity for us. Thank you.
Put me on that subcommittee.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, all righty. If you are interested in being on that committee, please put your name in the chat so that I can be sending out information.
So do we have another hand up? Because I thought I saw Arlen's hand go up, but then it went down. So I don't know if you had a thought, idea, comment, concern.
I did. I thought I was gonna type it out fast enough, but it didn't happen.
Okay.
The other thing I was gonna say is I think there's to Miss Rita Padrell is connected to her, but she has the a vocal project that they started. I know it started early, and then like I think they finished it with they probably got like 2 or 3 parts to it. So it's some old footage, but it is some more new recent footage that they had that they're putting. I believe they have some of it in the Facing Rising Sun exhibit that they just opened up. I believe yesterday at the APAC. So it is some resources that is already there that you wouldn't have to do too much on, but it is still some people that's missing. So I understand.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, Arlen. And actually, now that you mentioned it, Rita Partrell was the one that we had reached out to for the book. So thank you for reminding me of her name. So we may reach back out to her to see if she's interested in leading us in this project. So if I could also still on the kind of culturally relevant information, Cynthia, can you please, Dr. Wise, I'm sorry, can you please weigh in on what you put in the chat earlier about the middle school? Because I think that that's relevant to this conversation.
Thanks so much, Kimberly. Yes, we're funded by Kellogg to create a Southern New Mexico Curriculum Writing Institute. We included teachers from throughout the state, from Cliff to Carlsbad, as far north as TRC, in working with students. Students were on our group as well, in developing curriculum that was place-based and culturally relevant. Included in some of that curriculum was Bobby Boyer. I was glad to hear you talk about her. We're reaching out to elders in the community to share stories of their particular culture in the state. And it's something that I know that Dr. Lara has been in contact with people with the PED about. Those lessons are being piloted right now. We're hoping to have them back in-house by the end of December so that we can do whatever tweaking we need to do. There's stories about the erasure of populations in Grant County, where whole communities were eaten up in a form of environmental racism. We talk about segregation in the state of New Mexico and whole school districts that refuse to allow Black children to attend their schools. We also have a film project where we're working with the Piro Mansotiwa people to talk about not only the revolt of 1680, but what that meant to southern New Mexico, where that mountain that is not far from my window, that is called A Mountain, I don't think that New Mexico State knew that its native name was Axalié. So the A is appropriate, and why it's called Tortugas Mountain, because of the turtles that existed in southern New Mexico. And the river was at one point, we've documented 9 miles wide with islands full of turtles. So that curriculum should be at least ready to roll out by fall of 23 in New Mexico schools. And we'll be continuing to work on film projects, curriculum projects, and we're all really excited about it.
Thank you so much. Wow, so much exciting things happening. Let's see. Johnna, we can keep rolling with the agenda.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Dr. Wise, for that update. I am excited about so many things that we're talking about, but I do want to take the time to discuss recruitment. One of the things that Devin and I had kind of brainstormed on was making sure that we have a group of people making sure that we have an equitable group, right? We don't want just a group full of directors and administrators, or that's heavily directors and administrators. We want to make sure teachers have a voice. We want to make sure that parents and community members have a voice, but we have to be accessible to do that, right? We have to be a group of people that people feel comfortable, having an opinion around, right? And we might not even agree with each other, and that's okay. But how, I just want to put that on your mind. So what are you guys thinking as far as recruitment for the advisory council? Because a lot of times we go with people that we know, right? So I know such and such, and sometimes when we know people, we do have a similar, mindset and we might agree on things. So we might be recruiting an echo chamber. And I want to make sure that we're not doing that. So go ahead, Joseph.
Kimberly, what you were talking again about putting another advertisement out to teachers again, I think, or we had discussed it. We had some interest last year, and then we had some fallout and some people vanished. So what was the word on that again?
Yes, and unfortunately, I haven't been able to follow up on that, Joseph, but yes, I am still committed to getting something, and maybe you can help me thought partner on what that flyer or advertisement should look like. But yes, that is definitely still something that I'm committed to making sure we do. And I do remember very clearly Dr. Lopez emphasizing the importance of having teacher presence when we were in the retreat. And so I remembered that as well. One of the other things that I think is very important to have representation is people that have the lens of intersecting identities, i.e. maybe some Afro-Latina students or parents, or, I think that that is very important because oftentimes, at least in my experience, those students really do not, are overlooked in all of the conversation. And so I think that it's important to be able for us to have a lens that addresses their unique needs, because we want to make sure, again, that we are not just solely focused on the kind of people that we know as Black people, right? We want to make sure that we are representing all students. Another thing that also crossed my mind, I do have another Hobbs parent. She happens to be a counselor in Hobbs. But I've asked her if she wouldn't mind joining as in the capacity of a parent to have that lens. And so I have also reached out to the senior members of the Identity Equity Transformation team to find out exactly what I need to make sure that the secretary knows of the new members. And so I have gotten I'm getting a copy of that form. And so if you have not already sent me a copy of your bio, because I think it's important for people to know the valuable experience and expertise that we have, please send me your bio, because at some point we want to not only highlight that on our website, but also when we are going out in the community, we want people to know who we have supporting us and who is in the trenches with us doing this work. And so I'm going to ask again, if you haven't already sent me your bio, CV, or resume, please send that to me. The other thing that I think is important as we're thinking about recruitment is, how can we, like reach out to, like, as Johnna said, we don't want to become an echo chamber, but what are ways that we can reach out to people that we really don't interact with much? And so I'm open to ideas from you all with regards to town halls, because I think that that is also another effective way to get increase the visibility of the Black Education Act, but also recruiting people who are in the communities that are representing this work that we are doing. So if you have ideas about where we can go to do some town halls or some listening sessions, please, please, please let me know. Vicki, I'm definitely interested in working with you here in Las Cruces to be able to do some things here. Go ahead, Joseph.
Okay, sorry. I just wanted to finish my thought too. So something happened with the teacher liaison and the teacher liaison network. I don't know, like it kind of fell apart this year. I'm not sure if Ken or somebody or you or somebody from the PED could talk about that. Because we haven't had any meetings this year, and maybe one newsletter came out this year. But usually teachers get like a newsletter every month. Teacher leaders and teachers get a newsletter every month. In that newsletter, though, that was really helpful because that's where we could recruit teachers easily. So if we could somehow send out an email through whatever system that is, particularly just recruiting teachers for the council / the committee for the professional development and curriculum, and specifically say, we're looking for Black teachers, because we really should be having Black teachers on this committee. And then where else was I going to go? I was going to say something else, and I can't remember what else I was going to say. I think we need to be targeting also the Clovis, Portales communities. And if you're going to have a town hall, let's go down there.
Joseph,
And I
me and
would love
Kim
to-
just talked about that last night. I was
did. We
saying
sure
we
did.
need to be in Curry County because I want to say that is the biggest Black population in the state. That is my understanding. So we definitely need to be, and like I talked to the subcommittee, the curriculum instruction subcommittee before about this. The reason why I was able to join is because I saw people come in my school and I was like, hey, what's going on? Who is all these Black people, honey? What are we doing? And I was like, oh, okay, I want to be a part of that because this is my heart's work anyway. And so I saw people come in that were like, we're, supporting Black education. And I was down for it, right? So we have to be accessible. Teachers have to see us. And then, they can understand what's going on. So yes, I do think we need to be in Curry County.
Yes, and please know that with these town halls, I am encouraging and asking for you all to travel with us, because I think that that's important as well. But Joseph, also to your point, I remember, Kenneth, maybe you can correct me, but I think that there is a new liaison, a new teacher. I remember somebody introducing me to her, and so she is definitely willing, and maybe we can invite her to one of our meetings, because she definitely, I just recently met her, right, Kenneth?
Yeah, she just came on board in the past couple month and a half. So Joseph, that's good to know, though, the kind of drop that you've been seeing in engagement from that office. We can definitely talk about how that can be improved. She's very energetic, and I think maybe she's still just kind of onboarding onto her new role, but we definitely need to get her included in this space. And get the teacher leader network leveraged in any way we can. We definitely need Black teacher voice on here. And then it also, back when I first started at the department in the policy division, and I ran the student leader network when I was there. And if that is still going on, I think we should maybe talk about how we could possibly leverage any youth voice that we can get from that network as well. So Joseph, great thoughts, point well taken, and I think we just need to kind of get in conversation with that office.
Yeah, Arlen, I see that. I mean, Joseph, were you finished?
Yes, I was finished. So I did see that, just a finishing comment, I guess, to finish what I was finished about. So yes, I did see that we did have a new teacher leader or teacher liaison, but I was wondering if I wasn't on the email list or something anymore, because yeah, we haven't had a meeting at all. So I didn't know if I got knocked off or whatever. So I'm just not sure what's going on. So it's good to know that, I guess. Well, I don't know. There's nothing to know, I guess.
Yes, thank you. Arlen, I see that your hand is up.
Yes. So, I guess this will be a little bit talking about kind of to what I do in APS. So recently my capacity has changed a little bit. I've always done equity and engagement, but one of the other things that I've been doing more as an emphasis is African American supports, and I'm one of the few people in the district. Not one, I wouldn't say one, probably the only person in the district that does anything when it comes down to the African American community. But what we do have is an African American Advisory Council, which is consistent of Black teachers, parents, and I normally would use that as a space to kind of recruit. So I do have a number of parents that is in that council that are willing to kind of be into it. The only problem I know I could have in like trying to encourage parents and some of my groups is that we would have a high Albuquerque representation and not actually be as equitable. But we do have a lot of I know of a lot of people who are willing and honestly have gone through their own things in APS that are wanting to kind of figure out what other things is going on the greater scale of like PED and stuff. We also the reason why I'm a capacity change is because we just Joycelyn Jackson retired last spring. So now I have the BSU sponsors and the BSUs in our high schools underneath me. So that means that we do have students, student leaders. Most of our BSU members now are actually like freshmen and sophomores. And so we've been trying to figure out ways to keep them engaged and kind of understand more about leadership and how having their voice in education. They have not really been tapped on for the past 2 years, especially since like COVID. So it's kind of a new group of students, but for the seniors and juniors, those are the ones that kind of went through COVID, went through most of their high school kind of not in person. So they do have a lot of things to kind of talk about and want to bring a voice to. So at least I know I can like add on to the youth and or local parents. But I would say the only thing I would add is I know some people in the Rio Rancho public school district too that are instructors and or staff members that probably would be good to have either on one of our subcommittees or even in the main meeting space, because while it's still kind of Albuquerque, they do have their own completely different kind of structure school wise. But I do think reaching out to like the district engagement offices and or community or family engagement offices will give you a lot of that, because most districts have to maintain some kind of advisory council. And even still, each district has a Yazzie Martinez council, which is supposed to be consistent of most of our populations that we're talking about anyway. So I believe in the Yazzie Martinez, just knowing like dealing with our Black and Indigenous population. A lot of our Black Indigenous will actually sit on more Indigenous committees because it fits more into kind of their upbringing in the tribal setting. And that's where they can be more advocates to kind of bring in that Black presence. So in the Yazzie Martinez meetings, throughout in other school districts, that could be a way that you can recruit, and you already have people who are willing and kind of have that time dedicated. The only problem you could have is it could be some people who are overworked, but I believe you can kind of fish that out and get a better and get that group that you're looking for through that.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Arlen. And I would love to meet with you offline because you could probably help to support that subcommittee for the student group. One of the things that, and I think I mentioned this at another meeting, but I think it's important to repeat it here, is that we are also collaborating with the State Office of African American Affairs, who is really working hard. I don't know if any of you know that Amy has transitioned out of OAAA. She's with the governor's team now, but prior to her departure, we were working and meeting, and we still are meeting every week on the BSUs. And so what we have purposed to do, Arlen, is to change the name to Black Student Alliances to be more inclusive of students who may want to participate that are not Black. And so maybe I should, not maybe, I need to get you on that meeting invitation list to be meeting with us with the office, since that's now under your purview. So I will definitely, I'll definitely be in touch with you offline. But thank you so much for all that you're doing. And I didn't realize your role changed and expanded. So thank you. But we definitely want to be able to support the work that you're doing as well. And, unfortunately, for so long, as many of you know, it has been just me. And so, trying to be everywhere doing all things has been a little bit tiring, but I'm encouraged because I will be almost fully staffed. And so we will now be able to actually get out into the community. And so with our family and engagement coordinator, we'll be able to definitely have a greater presence in the communities. But if there are events coming up that you know of that we should have a tabling, have a table or come and present, Arlen, I'm definitely interested in coming to present to your parent and student groups. But if there's other groups that you would like for me to go out and present to, please let me know.
Oh yeah, I definitely could provide a list. And I mean, I understand this your same capacity because that's kind of how I feel now. That's kind of why I've been kind of all over the place. But I will try to make sure that I try to consolidate some of the events and stuff that I do get, and I can make sure I at least send it to you to send out to the group.
Thank you so much. Let's see. Johnna, I think we might be ready to move on to the next item.
Okay,
I'm sorry to be taking up so much space.
That's okay. Do we need like a 5-minute go to the bathroom real quick or stretch? Okay, I see some head nodding. All right, so it is 10:23. So we'll be back at 28, maybe 29. That way, because we're probably 30 seconds into 23. So 10:29, we'll be back. Okay. All right, welcome back, everybody. Looks like most of us are here. So we'll move into committee reports. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Joseph to give us an update for curriculum and professional development. Are you back, Joseph? Oh, yeah, I see you.
Yes, I'm here. So last week I met with Kimberly, Charles, and Johnna just to discuss our next initiatives. Next week, the Curriculum and Professional Development Committee is going to be receiving an email from me. I am putting together a website. It's just a Google site of resources. I'm going to be putting together different pages for the different content areas. So think of the different subjects such as like math, science, language arts, performing arts, and so on and so forth. And when I send out this email, I'll send out a video to the committee members suggesting how to place their resources on there. And each specialist will be asked to put 3 resources on that page. They'll be asked to include the scores as assessed on the CARE tool. So we're using the CARE tools we've been talking about this whole year. And they'll be asked to put that score on there and include the rubric that they used on there as well. So some of the details will be explained a little bit more in that video. So again, I'll send that email out this week in Thanksgiving break, and I'll give committee members about three weeks to do that, and we'll have a meeting in December to discuss the process. And I was hoping to invite, do you go by Ken or Kenneth? Ken?
Ken's fine, thank you.
Okay. I was hoping to invite you to that meeting, and hopefully you could, we meet on Tuesdays, usually at about, was it, I think 5 o'clock, it was either 4:30 or 5, I'm trying to remember at that time. Is that usually a time that you'd be available around that time? Would that
5 is usually, pretty, like, that's definitely good for me. 4:30, I could probably make that work as long as I know like a week ahead of time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, my big question, I know I'm supposed to be doing this is just a committee reporting, but now I just have one question that if I don't ask this now, I'm wondering, we're looking, when we're looking at this resource, I looked at that website even before the one that you shared about the instructional materials. Our committee, in my view, as we're talking about our committees, I don't know that we're looking to adopt, right? We're not adopting textbooks or adopting official curriculum. We're looking to supplement with informal resources. And so with that being said, Ken, do we really need to go through the process of looking to get official recommendations if we're just putting out there just resources that are valuable to educators, but they're not recommendations? Do you know what I mean? Not official recommendations. They're
Yeah. So that's a great question, Joseph. I see what you're trying to say here. If we want to get it on NMPED's instructional material webpage, it does need to go through the official adoption and approval process. However, not all, actually, a lot of materials that we use in education are not on that official instructional material webpage. So, to get it on the PED's official instructional material webpage, yes, we do need to go through that process. And that's where a lot of folks look when they're wondering, like, how do I have these conversations with my students? And they start just Googling, New Mexico education curriculum. That's what's going to pop up, right? But so the answer is, yes, we do need to go through that process if we wanted to get it on that web page, but do we need to go through that process and get it on the web page to advocate for teachers and educators to be using this? Absolutely not. So, you know, there's degrees to the advocacy that we can take in getting these resources out there. And yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not sure if that answered your question there.
It does.
Okay.
So then what I'm going to say then, as part of the curriculum committee, what we're going to be focusing on then, once we get these resources uploaded onto our sites, we'll decide what resources as a team might look like official resources that we might want to put on the instructional materials website and might want to go through the official vetting process, and that will come in the months following. But first, we just want to go through this process of uploading our 3 resources and getting those done by that December date. And then our other things that we're doing as the curriculum committee, we are going to be developing professional development specific to using the CARE tool for the schools that we are teaching or where we're staffed. So, Johnna is staffed in Alamogordo, Vicky's staffed in Las Cruces, I'm staffed here in Albuquerque. We're going to be creating some type of material by Black History Month. So we're hoping to have this ready for February, ready for professional development at our schools, kind of a launch to see how that works, and then see how that goes. And then from there, maybe making that material into something bigger that we can use to for across the state for all teachers, and how to use the CARE tool. Because again, not all resources are going to be coming down from the state level, right? The resources are going to be, teachers are pulling things from the internet, and they need to be able to vet resources themselves, and they need to know how to utilize this tool to see, make sure that they're being inclusive of Black culture, Black history, and Black stories, right? And Johnna, I wanted this, usually I would say I'm trying to say if I'm remembering everything, but those are our main tasks that I remember. But if you can remember anything else, you can add.
No, I think that's good, Joseph.
Okay.
You're good. Oh, and then go ahead, Kenneth.
Joseph, what date did you say that meeting was again? The next curriculum committee meeting?
So I didn't make a date, but I can make one right now. So next week is Thanksgiving, and we have the 28th. Let's see. Well, I might as well do it now, right? So 1, 2, 3. So I would say this could be on, that's going to be a weird date, but we could do that. So December 20th, and instead of 5 o'clock, we could make this one at, I'm sorry, I know this is weird. Usually I make them at 5 to be consistent, but I actually have a weird appointment that's there, but we can make this one at 5:30 if that could work for everybody, but I'm just going to propose that.
Joseph, can you put that in the chat? I'm sorry, because I can't remember.
And Joseph, that one Tuesday happens to not be a good Tuesday for me because I have a CASA board meeting that starts right at 5:30 on that Tuesday. But I don't want you to like go and moving meetings around just for myself.
Okay, then I'll send an email to everybody, and I'll include that. If you could just put your email in the chat, and then I will, yeah, we'll all discuss a possible date.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that I wanted to share, Joseph, just in case you're, and let me say for the record, did I tell you that we have a bar none chair Joseph definitely has been really, really leading this committee, and they have been working hard. I do want to share, just in case you all didn't know, prior to her departure, her transition, Simone did hire a consultant to develop sample lesson plans, and those have been uploaded to the resource folder in the advisory council's Google Drive. So you should be able to access those. And I think that I had shared that with the curriculum committee a while back, but Charles was able to get those uploaded. So those are available.
Can we send that link out for that Google Drive again, like through email, please?
I sure can.
Okay.
And Kim, did you say that Charles is leaving his official position?
Yes, he has already left. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So if you know of a very strong K-12 curriculum coordinator, please forward that name to me.
Okay, so we'll move on to data and policy. I see that Dr. Lopez has already put something in the chat. So if you want that to serve as your report, that's fine. But if you have anything to add, Dr. Trujillo and Dr. Lopez, please go ahead at this time.
So I mentioned that Dr. Trujillo and I are co-chairing the Data and Policy Committee. We haven't been able to meet to harmonize our schedules, but I'm hoping that we could get some assistance in trying to do that so that everyone else on the committee is able to join if they would like to. Essentially, we're thinking about strategic planning around policies that would harmonize the way that we collect data for impact. So one thing that I just wanted to call to your attention, I put in the chat, we have a legislative session coming up. There is a House Bill 112 that was passed 10 years ago about disaggregating data and using data for equity. What if we added and updated that House Bill to include the collection of parental educational attainment so that we could use that for equity? That would really help us understand who we're serving, how many Black girls and boys who grew up in a household where no parent had the opportunity to earn a four-year college degree are graduating, are proficient compared to those that grew up in a household where, like our children, many of our kids, right, if we have kids, have a parent with a four-year college degree, right? And so we would be leaders in the country. I've mentioned this before, but I think what we could do strategically is say this is a data point that we need for equity metrics that are intersectional. And I want to invite Dr. Trujillo to add anything, but I think it's really important to try to find, to calendarize our meeting dates so that anyone on the committee can join us. So say we decide Wednesday at 5 is the day, on the third Wednesday of every month, then everyone knows and everyone's able to join and participate.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, Nancy. Just to reestablish, and I love that word harmonize. Like, it seems like our schedules go well for a while, and then there's just like the train wreck, and it's like, what happened to my beautiful schedule? And so let's please do that. For me, I think this is a great conversation piece. One of the things that I work on, or am working on consistently, is the New Mexico longitudinal data system, of which PED is one of our partners. And we're actually at a point where I think it would be really critical to put together like almost like a research design and data group, including people from like the different education acts, you know, because right now, I'm just going to name it, we have a predominantly white team that's designing that data project, right? That's supposed to be something that is going to help everybody from cradle to career. But how do I say, like, there are a few of us who are always kind of asking those intervention questions, talking about how do we design equity into the system. But unfortunately, that doesn't always translate into the IT lexicon. And so for me, I would really love and planning on speaking to Secretary Rodriguez and the other secretaries involved with the LDS system to say that we need this. Because the other piece, for instance, is there's going to be a statewide data conference, and maybe that's something we can present at. I think the CFP is already closed, but I do think that we need to start asking this question, not like the collecting parental achievement data, just to get like these equity questions on the pulse of people who are data collectors, I think would be really significant, is all I'm saying. I just keep observing in these spaces that, you know, we're suffering from like that, oh, like if we get to it, or if we can tack it on to the end, as opposed to it being like the central premise of how we should be collecting data for the state.
Thank you for that, Dr. Trujillo. And I know that you and Dr. Lopez know the snag that I've just ran into working on our status report. And so the faculty side of things is data that I am required to include in my status report, but I did not know that that wasn't something that was currently being collected. And so thank you both, Dr. Trujillo and Dr. Lopez, for pointing me in that direction. And I think that our policy team might be reaching out to ask if that data can be kind of kept on your portal at the higher ed level, because I'm reaching out to all of those schools, and I wouldn't have known that if it weren't for the two of you all. So thank you so much for that.
So did you have luck with the fact books being able to find that information consistently? I know that UNM's was beautiful, but I was wondering about some of the other schools.
So I'm still going through it, and actually our internal PED policy person that has been assigned to us is Adrian. And so he was gracious enough to reach out to the independent community colleges and the tribal colleges to ask, you know, to try to get that. And so I'll keep a running tab so I can let you know if there are any issues that I think I might need your support on.
Yeah, because I am also interested in that data as it's collated. I think that maybe there's a cross sharing of the report and really highlighting that area on our part, because it's also something that, like, you know, it's like what is it, like it's almost like what you count you privilege, right? And so the fact that it is like hidden deep down in reports that we have to go and do, like, you know, pull the data out one by one. Obviously, that also speaks to maybe as part of this legislation, Dr. Lopez is saying that we need this report on the diversity and equity of faculty and staff at higher ed institutions, as well as K through 12.
And the other piece I should mention is that we also got a National Science Foundation grant for a conference series on creating a community of practice. So not only are we collecting the data, but then what are we doing with it? I think it's very easy to collect data and do nothing with it. But how is this informing what we are doing differently in our curriculum, in our hiring, in what counts as knowledge, the mentoring, the access to AP, everything, every indicator that we want? How do we create a sustainable community of practice? So I think I forwarded that information to all of you. We just had our kickoff conference this week, but we're going to continue in the spring. And we're in the process of applying for a $3 million hub involving not only UNM, but also New Mexico State and also CNM, and then partnering with the City University of New York to do the same thing with their community colleges and their four-year colleges, so that this is not simply about collection, but action. What does this mean on the ground for each individual institution, including K-12?
And I think that there's like a potential there for also the development of some types of programs, right? One of the things that we're seeing in we're trying to hire in our policy, academic policy division, and it's really hard to find people who have background or training in like the analysis and the interpretation of data. And so then what we get, like it's that exact problem, is that, you know, we're collecting all this data, but then also in regards to how we interpret that data to put it to work as policy, to give it legs, we need more and more folks being able to be thinking in those directions. So, and Dr. Lopez, I'm sorry I missed your conference, but I would love to hop back in and get involved in the springtime.
It will be posted. We recorded it. And we're creating a community of practice that will live beyond us. And it's going to be on our website, race.unm.edu, but also in the UNM digital repository for posterity. So once the website is gone, there will be an archive in the library as well. But I did put in the chat that the first Wednesday of every month at 5 p.m., we're going to try to make our policy and data committee work. I know there's several of you here, Hakeem, Sandra, I hope Cynthia will join us as well, and others. So that's the hope. And let's see if we can put that on our committee calendar so that everyone knows. I'd love to go to the curriculum committee if I'm able to at some point, you know.
So I wanted to share, thank you so much, Dr. Lopez and Dr. Trujillo. I wanted to share in the chat the data points that we were talking about that that I've been having trouble, well, initially had trouble getting. So just to keep everybody in the loop of what we're discussing. So it's all those things centered around faculty. So it's in the chat, what we were talking about.
Okay, if nothing else for data and policy, let's move on. What I'll do, because Kim is going to talk about family and community engagement and public relations, so I'll go ahead and talk about the hotline, and then I'll turn it over to you. Does that sound okay with you, Kimberly? Okay. All right. So for the hotline, we're at the tail end of building out the hotline software. So they have, PED has hired a company to help build that out. And once that's done, then we'll be able to create reports and start to recognize like trends of incidents that are happening around the state. So like, well, who's reporting? Like what people are reporting, what are their backgrounds, what's going on in the state, really. Phase 2 is to work to integrate the PED list of like schools and districts so we can see the trends that are happening in the districts too. So like first, like, hey, what's going on in the state? Who's reporting? What types of incidences are being reported mostly? And then what's going on particularly in districts when it comes to race and oppression, right? And then so that phase 2 is tentatively February for that, looking at specific districts. And then the other thing is marketing. And I use the term marketing because that would be, the technical term, but really we're trying to be accessible and let people know, hey, this is a resource that you can use to report racially charged incidences, whether that be staff, whether that be students, whoever that is, if it's happening in a New Mexico school system and it's a racially charged incident, it can be reported. But, we have to market, and that means, talking to people. And that also means putting out information and connecting with people. So that's another, I guess, project we're working on. Any questions, comments, or concerns about that?
Johnna, I just put in the chat because Devin's title has changed, but I just want everybody to know that he still oversees the hotline. And so in our restructuring, Simone Van, our Identity, Equity, and Transformation Division Director. Oh my gosh, that was a mouthful. Devin direct reports to her. But the hotline also, I think too, in that marketing thing, making sure that people understand that one, it is for all students, not just Black students. It is for all students, parents to report, and that it is not a crisis line. A lot of people, when you hear hotline, you're thinking that like 24-hour turnaround or immediate, somebody's answering. Devin, with the support of Johnna and a couple other people, they manage that thing, and it's a big undertaking. And so as you all are, providing information about the hotline, just make sure that people understand, one, that it is for all students, not just Black students. And two, that it is not a crisis line. If there is suspected abuse, they should still go through the channels of contacting CYFD. I did make sure that CYFD did a training for all of us on mandatory reporting, because as we're getting calls to the hotline, that people can know that this is really not appropriate for the that it's not appropriate for the the racial aggression, but this really should be reported to CYFD. And we also cross-report and making sure that we're channeling things in the proper way. The other thing is to make sure that people understand that it is for school-based incidences. We in the summer had incidences that were reported for intramural sports, and unfortunately, that's not the scope of the work for the hotline. It is specific to school-based incidents. And to Dr. Lopez's point about what are we doing with this data? So I can tell you my team specifically will be using that data to inform how we make recommendations and how we provide technical support to schools and to districts. Because if there is an area or a district that has repeated hotline referrals, we want to make sure that we are intentionally reaching out to them in a proactive, supportive way, not in a punitive way. And that's something else that we do not, as the Black Education Act hotline, we do not offer consequences. That is not what we do. I think that that's also been a misconception. We are a neutral party in doing the back research, and the schools and districts actually do the investigations, but we work very collaboratively with all parties involved to try to be proactive. And so people will call us before contacting the hotline. We've had superintendents reach out to us like, hey, I'm not sure how to handle this. We recommend those kinds of things, because if we can be viewed as a partner, ahead of time, before things escalate, that's ideal for us, so we can address things at the lower level. Joseph, I see your hand up.
Wait, my hand is up?
Yeah, I think it was just left up.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
If you just click
Sorry.
reactions, yeah, there you go. Okay, anything else on hotline? All right, Kim, I'm gonna hand it over to you for family and community engagement and public relations.
Okay, so family and community engagement, Dr. Monique Matute Chavaria oversees that, chairs that subcommittee, and she desperately is seeking membership. And so if you, in our recruiting, if you have somebody, I know that, thank you, Dr. Stephanie, for recommending Beverly, I can't remember her last name, but we desperately would like to have, and I'm gonna tap into Arlen to get some parents to join that. Macmillan, yes, thank you. I'm going to tap into Arlen to get some of those families, but also reaching out to, I'm going to start going to board meetings where I can. So also we can try to recruit some parents for that committee. So they have not actually met. With regards to the, what's the other committee? I'm sorry. My brain just forgot.
Oh, it's okay. It's public relations.
Oh, public relations. Yes. Again, tapping Arlen. Arlen, I'm gonna actually ask, since you have access and you have a big pool, do you mind being on that subcommittee? Because as I think Devin used to do it, but his plate is so busy, and I will definitely support in that work. But that really is that student group, right? Because they have the voice that we need to kind of push things out. Thank you so much, Arlen. So I will reach out to you, and you and I can schedule a time to meet, and we can kind of hold that committee down until we can get somebody in that role. And I think that's all. That's all I have for those two.
Okay. So then we'll go ahead and move on to our next meeting. And how should we go about, planning a consistent meeting? What are you all thinking as far as which Saturday in the month we want to conduct these meetings? Any input? You can do that in the chat. You can unmute, however you want to do that.
So I know that before, and this was in place before I stepped into this role, but I think that before it was always the third Saturday of the month. And I just want to reemphasize that statute only requires you all to meet as a council 3 times a year. And so what I don't want to do is I don't want to overtax you all, especially knowing that you all also have your subcommittee meetings that you will be going to. And then one last thing that I want to add, and then I'm going to stop talking. I would love to be able to invite speakers to our meetings. Like, for instance, I would love to have somebody come to talk to us about the state of mental health of Black students. I know that it might even be worthwhile to invite the Chicago project that Dr. Lopez was talking about, to have, to inform some of these things so that you all don't have to, go out looking for those things. I think that that would be a great benefit if we can invite speakers on different topics, if that's something. And I'm going to be quiet now.
Okay, I see some stirrings in the chat. So some proposals are the first or fourth Saturday of the month. I even said, okay, do we want to do the third Saturday of the month? Do we want to do a Saturday every other month? Since we already have subcommittee meetings and all of that. So what are some thoughts about that? Choosing a Saturday of the month. Does it need to be every month? And I personally, and this is just my opinion, and you all can agree or disagree, but I think for right now, we do need to be meeting once a month just because we need to be getting off the ground. But that is my thought. If people, our schedules are crazy, I already know, in education. So if you think every other month works best, that then say that.
I actually kind of agree with you, Johnna. I feel like if we don't meet every month, we're just going to kind of like go off into space and not really realize what we're doing, and not be accountable, right, to our goals in some ways. I don't know.
Anybody else want to speak to that every month or every other month thing?
I would just offer, for me, every other month seems more tenable, especially going into the session and knowing that we have a long session this year. I remember at the end of last year, the session ended, we had Friday off, and then we had Black Education Act, and that the afternoon after our meeting, I just slept for 8 hours. And so also in regards to self-care for our team, just thinking about those types of things.
All right, we got 2 for every month and 1 for every other month. Come on, y'all got to put the input in. I got to hear it. You can vote in the chat.
We're also a consensus-based thing, so we have to come to consensus if whatever we decide.
True, agreed. It's a democratic committee over here, all right? Although I like to think I'm a queen, I'm not running a monarchy.
I can say that I would still be okay with every other month. So if we're going to build consensus, I could still be okay with that, because the committees, like Kimberly's saying, like the committee stuff, we do meet quite often. So that work is still getting done a lot. So.
Okay, so I see that Kim has said every other month works. And Dr. Wise says the same thing.
Actually, what I suggested was every month as we go into the session. I guess I take
every month as you go into the session.
I don't work for the state, and so I don't have to do everything that state workers have to do going into the session. But I think as a committee on the whole, there's going to be legislation that we're going to want to weigh in on. And if we're waiting until, like, we're in November now, we don't meet till January, and then they start talking about the legislation, we're not meeting again until March. And by then it's either out of committee or it's stalled in committee. And we need that opportunity to reflect on the legislation and have a voice.
Okay, Dr. Lopez, are you saying same for you on what Dr. Wise is saying, or like, what are you saying same?
Yeah, I agree. I think we should probably try to do once a month, especially during the legislative session for the spring, but maybe change that once that's over.
Okay, so then you think we should do every month until what month? Until March?
Yeah.
Okay,
No,
and then,
no.
okay, and then we wouldn't meet again after March until May, and then throughout the summer, when would we start meeting again every month?
Well, a lot of the prep work for the legislative session is in the fall, right? And so that's, maybe we should just calendarize it by saying it every I don't know, even month, because otherwise it will become unpredictable. People just want to know when they're meeting.
We could come up with a calendar, even if it is like, okay, every month through March, and it's on the calendar with links or whatever, and to the Zoom or to the Teams rather, and then we're going every other month from May to what, August? You thinking August or you thinking September? And then we start back every month in August or start back every month in September. I think that would be fine as long as it's on the calendar. But, you know, go ahead and comment on that.
So just keep in mind that our fiscal year ends June 30th. And so also, if we want to continue to do the annual retreat thing, you know, if you want to do that in the summer, so that's something to think about as well.
So would the annual retreat be considered our meeting for that month? Would it be June, or would it? Did we do it in
July.
June or May?
July.
Oh, July. So that
Yeah,
would,
because that's when the new fiscal year starts.
right. So then if we're gonna meet every other month in the summer anyway, then that would be fine because it would be May, July, and then September. And then every other month or every month starting again in September to March. Is that good, or let me know if that's weird?
I think it makes a lot of sense because once we get into the fall, school has started and we're gearing up for a budget session. So we'll be able to talk about legislation dealing with how legislators finance education in the next year.
Okay, so then it's looking like September to March. I'll try to type that in the chat just a little bit, or somebody else could. September to March every month. And then after March, it would be every other month. So then that would be May, July, September. So that's when we meet after March. So however you want to put that in a sensical way in the chat. Now we need to pick the Saturday. People have suggested the first, third, and the fourth Saturday.
And just so you know, at least from my perspective, it doesn't have to be a Saturday. But if that works for you all, you know, whatever day you all tell me, that's when I'll show up. But if another day of the week works in the evening for you all, that works for me as well.
I'm gonna say, and this is just my opinion, that we keep it on a Saturday because that's the way it's been. But because most of us are educators, or we're in, I don't know, by the time I get off work, y'all, I don't know if I can go through a 4-hour meeting. So Saturday is gonna work best for me. But that's just me. I'm gonna make whatever work, whatever consensus we come to. But I'm just speaking to, you know, generally what it looks like in education. Thoughts on Saturday, or which Saturday, or which day of the week? Okay, I see Saturday. Okay, maybe we can do a poll on the day of the week. We can send out a poll. That's a good idea. So we have the monthly schedule. So maybe we need to send out a poll for the day of the week. I do see people in the chat saying Saturday works better though. And we can still do a poll. We can talk about, okay, Saturday is fine. I see people.
Well,
Okay.
we
Go ahead.
discussed the third Saturday for some reason. There was something about holidays falling on certain days, right? There,
I'm not sure.
Yeah, that was one of the things that why we picked the third Saturday was because I believe we was talking about Thursday at one point in time. And it was looking at holidays like Thanksgiving, being off and things like that. And then when we looked at the second Saturday, I think it still fell into like times where people could be gone for holidays. So the third Saturday was kind of like that one that was cool. And if we needed to adjust, we could in that earlier week.
yeah, so just to give you an example, right? So Thanksgiving is on the 1, 2, 3. It's on the 4th week, right? Christmas is 1, 2, 3, 4, or Christmas Eve is on the 4th week. And then we have President's Day, which is on the 1, 2, 3, 4th. So those all happen on the 4th week. So you probably want to get away from those. Maybe I'm just suggesting, right?
Yeah, so I think the fourth Saturday is out, and I think most people would probably agree to that. And if you don't, then I don't want to speak for you. You can say that.
And also keep in mind, we will be recording all of the sessions here, all of the meetings from here on out. And so you will, at least if you can't join, you'll be able to listen to the recording.
I don't see any problems with the first Saturdays.
Although we would be turning around and having another meeting at the beginning of December, which I am okay with, but just putting that out there, like this is the third Saturday, so we will have a meeting in like 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, I would like to keep it consistent myself. We've been having them on the third Saturdays, and keeping them on the third is fine with me, but yeah.
I would suggest first Saturday will be problematic going into the session. First Saturday is the 3rd of January, and I have a feeling we will all be off work and relaxing next to a television, watching football possibly. But if we were to go into the second, though I'm hearing that somewhat problematic, if you're going into the 3rd, you're right at the beginning of the session, and so you'll be able to see which bills have dropped going in.
Okay, so it looks like the third Saturday might be best, although I can't remember someone suggested not doing the third Saturday. So what do we think? What was the issue with the second Saturday? What did you say, Dr. Wise? I'm sorry.
I just didn't hear it as one of the suggestions. It was first, third, or fourth. And if we're going to stick with those options, then I think the third is best. But I don't know what the problem was with the second.
Is there a problem with the second Saturday? I guess that is the question. Okay, I don't see anyone in the chat saying the second Saturday is an issue. So do you see anything in the calendar, Joseph? Because I know you were looking at kind of like holidays and what might be happening with people. Would that conflict with any legislation or anything, Dr. Wise?
Veterans Day is the only thing I can see right now.
Okay, okay.
And given that we're past that, we're all good. As far as I know, legislature meets kind of sporadically. When it comes to those Saturdays, it depends on the committee and who the chair is. But at least for me, second Saturday is as good as third or fourth.
Okay, so now let's see, second Saturday or third Saturday? What are you all thinking? You can put that in the chat or be vocal about it.
Oh, and Juneteenth was on the 3rd week, it looks like.
Okay, well, that is very important. Unless we're meeting and throwing some type of event or something, right? We could be having a cookout or something. I see either. That's kind of how I feel. I feel like either as well. So it looks like second is.
Second ain't bad.
ahead,
I mean, I was just looking at the schedule, or trying to see what holidays it will fall on. I mean, at most, I think you might mess with 4th of July, probably, but that's about it. And I still don't even think that.
The second Saturday?
Mm-hmm. I didn't go as far as July, I'm sorry. But I
Well,
was
see,
looking
July,
at it.
remember July would be when we would have our retreat, our conference. So
Oh,
our
yeah.
conference would serve as our meeting. So we would obviously not do it around any holiday. So I'm thinking, is it possible to change the schedule when needed for, okay, perhaps. But again, Vicky, remember Kim said we're gonna have that video. So if you need to give some information beforehand and then go watch the video and then add whatever commentary you have, I think that would be acceptable. But I do think it's important to have a date on the calendar so we just already know.
Yeah, I guess what I was asking, is it possible if those days fall on a holiday, could you just change it to another day instead of just trying to stick to the 2nd or the 3rd?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yes. But it looks like we're avoiding them already anyway. Yes. Second, well, remember June, we're not meeting. So Juneteenth would be good. Because we're not meeting in June, remember? It's every other month. So we're going to meet in May and July is going to be a conference. So we're good. Yeah. So I think second Saturday is what's going to work. Do we agree on second Saturday? Okay, I see Dr. Lopez and Joseph with a thumbs up and Sandra. Okay. All right, so second Saturday of the month, we're gonna meet every month from September to March, and then we're gonna meet every other month starting in March. So then we would meet in March, or would we not meet in March? I'm sorry, I've gotten confused after all of this talk.
We would. We would meet in
March. Yeah, we would meet in March, and then we would meet in May, and then we would meet in July, and then we would meet again in September. Yep. I think that's it. Okay, and then I'll send something out about that. Does anybody have anything to add about our meeting schedule? Okay, for me, I'm gonna just kind of have some closing remarks, and then I'll hand it over to Kim. I really appreciate everybody. I appreciate all of the input. There were some great things that we talked about when it comes to curriculum and educating our students, and how we can connect with higher ed and PK-12. And I really, really want to do some work surrounding that. So I think this meeting has been very enlightening, and I just appreciate all of your participation. And I do want to leave it open for any comments or questions right now that on anything we've talked about, anything that might need to be clarified. All righty, so I'll hand it over to Kim. Again, thank you all so much. I hope you have a wonderful Saturday and a happy holiday if you're celebrating. And turn it over to you, Kim.
I want to echo the sentiments that Johnna has shared. I appreciate you all so very much. This is one meeting that I always look forward to because you all are here, not because you have to be or because you're being paid. You are genuinely committed, and I don't ever want it to go unsaid that I appreciate you I do want to share, as I do often, my philosophy and approach to this work, and I'll put it in the chat as well. And it is preservation of one's own culture does not require contempt or disrespect of other cultures. And that is a quote by Cesar Chavez. And I used to be a school counselor over at Lynn Community School, and it was on the wall and it just stuck with me so long before, you know, because I was trying to figure out my being a Black woman in New Mexico, because that means a very different thing for being a Black woman from Ohio. And so, you know, that is always my philosophy, and that we don't have to, you know, condemn or, you know, just, you know, put down other cultures in our search and our strive to maintain our own. I would like to invite Mr. Sam Smith as our guest today, and I would like to invite him if he has any questions or any remarks that he would like to make. I invite you to speak at this time, Sam. Okay, so I take that Sam would not like to have words, but Sam, I'll wait a couple more minutes in case you do. I see that Dr. Lopez has put something in the chat. Dr. Lopez, you want to share what that is?
It was just giving you a link to some of the stories that have been written about Chicago's curriculum. But I think the best strategy would be to reach out to the school district there and find out what they're doing and if any of that is publicly available. And like you said, potentially invite them to share.
I would love to do that. I would like the latter if we could invite them. And then, you know, I mean, I think that it's important that we, you know, I love that you all bring different ideas and different people that we can reach out to for thought collaboration. So are you all okay with me reaching out, or Johnna reaching out to invite them to our next meeting? Would that be okay? And maybe give them about 15 minutes? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Okay, cool. All right, so Johnna and I will reach out. Thank you all so much. Please know that I am available if you need anything. You have my contact information, and Johnna and I will be in touch. Miss Sandra, you were very quiet today. Were you able to capture the calendar dates? Because I know that the recording will have it, but
So, and I was going to raise my hand to ask the question about notes before. I do have the calendar dates. That was one of the reasons why I was very quiet. I was trying to capture everything, and I'm sure I did not capture everything. I've got some things. So how would you like me to handle the notes?
you can just type them up and email them to myself and Dr. Mack.
Okay, I will do that.
Thank you so kindly. And so does that mean that you are taking on the secretary role? I'm just asking.
Now, Dr. Mack did say in her text, we will vote, we will have an election. So this feels like an appointment, and I will accept the appointment.
All right, well, let the
Thank you, Sandra.
Let the record show that Sandra has it has been well, nominated. In any objections? Or maybe Johnna, maybe you can do a vote real quick.
Okay, so all in favor of Sandra being our new secretary, if you could put in the chat an aye for me, or you can do a thumbs up, it's up to you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, didn't we used to do, well, for our consensus, we used to be a thumbs up type of group.
Oh, and Dr. Trujillo puts a real eye. I love it.
Dr. Trujillo,
so
I want to say
Kenneth says if she wants it, I. And I definitely am eyeing that.
Dr. Trujillo, I want to say thank you to you because I know in your role that you are stretched far beyond thin and you still remain committed to us. And so I just want to say thank you. I know you got a lot going on, as everybody else does, but in your role specifically, I know. And Dr. Lopez, thank you so much for your research eye. I think that you bring a lens to us that most of us don't really consider. And I like that you consistently bring it to us. So to make sure that we don't forget about the importance of those things. So thank you all so much. I appreciate you. Well, we're going to give you back about 35 minutes of your Saturday morning.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to our new secretary.
Yes, we have a majority aye, so yes. All right, thank you all. Have a wonderful Saturday.
Johnna, if you could hang on for a second, let me stop.
Yep, I'll hang back.